About 11 years ago, I dug up some clay from the back corner of my yard. As a dumb kid, I didn't really look up how to process it properly. Typically, you mix the clay with water and get out all the rocks and organic matter. Then you let it settle and pour off the water. So quick. Well, I let it dry and then went at it with a tiny mortar and pestle. I ground the stuff for about 3 days straight. This was summer break, and predictably, I got bored. So I set it to the side and eventually forgot about it. I'd find it a couple times over the years and continue, but I'd eventually just get bored again. Now, all this time later, I finally had the patience to sit down and see the process through. I finally had about 2 or 3 pounds of clay dust. I mixed some water back in and put the lumpy mass into a container to reconstitute fully. I also added a bit too much water, so I ended up wrapping it up in paper towel for a couple hours to draw out some of the moisture. Eventually, I got it to what I think is the right texture, and just wedged it a bit to get the air out. And that's what you see right now. This is low fire clay, so it'll be super porous and not food safe unless glazed properly. And I don't have a kiln, so it's more than likely not going to be food safe. So for what I'm making, I went with an ellipse tray and this cup-like container. Might get a decent glaze, so just in case, I made the cup. But that's just wishful thinking. Later, I then ended up with a decent bit of extra clay, so I had some fun with it and made this like triangular base thingy, and then a tray with feet and this weird uncanny head shape thing. I don't know. Now for firing. As I mentioned, I don't have a kiln. The next best thing to use is fire. I mean, they did it in the past. So I went onto Facebook Marketplace and found some listings for free firewood. I picked those up and chopped them down to more usable sizes. Then I found some guy selling metal barrels for like $5. I realized the wood might not be enough, so I went out and got some more. This time it was just some dude's old fence that was half rotted. For bisque firing, which is the first lower temp firing of the clay, a wood fire should honestly get hot enough with the right ventilation, so we're good when the pieces are fully dried out. Just to like share, I guess, the planning for this video and possibly future videos. Since this is a whole lot of stuff, I'm going to be splitting this project into 2 videos, like the main steps in the process. First, there's going to be this video, which is the pottery making, and then the initial firing, followed by just applying the glaze onto the pieces. Then, since for glaze need to have a much hotter fire, I'm actually going to be making charcoal to use since store-bought briquettes have like additives in them that sometimes make them a little less aggressively hot. Then we'll finish it off with the second firing. This is also just if we even get that far. Everything has a chance of breaking because it's poorly processed clay and not a very controlled environment. So, yeah. All that said, onto the firing. To prepare, I started by throwing my pieces into the oven at 225 Fahrenheit, or a little over 100 Celsius. This is to keep them from exploding because steam is a thing. Then I turned my focus to my makeshift kiln. I just need to get the top off while also getting rid of any sharp edges. So I ground down maybe like an inch ring from the edge, and then used a wrench and a pickle bar to puncture and cut through the metal. Since it's punched, the edge will be like slightly bent down, so when I hammer the flange down into the can, there just like won't be any sharp bits to catch me. So I drilled in some air vent holes for the drum so it can actually like get a good fire going. Wrapped the bone dry pieces of clay in aluminum foil for a little bit of padding, and then also, you know, a bit of shielding here. Even though it's galvanized, you know, it's only a little piece, it'll be alright. And then a surface to burn this on. There's a bunch of vents underneath because there's also holes at the bottom of the bin. So, yeah. Let's see how this works. There it is loaded. Now time to start packing on the wood. So here's like the rat's nest of fuel. Just stick some other shit. The grass wrench is a little dead, so I actually came out with a hose and sprayed it all down. so hopefully not too many problems, but you know, the hose is right there. Here's the fun part. Gotta first find out where to properly light it. Well, most of the paper's burning. Alright. Kind of went off pretty quick. We're so far, maybe like a foot down. Gotta get all the way down to the bottom before it gets the right temp and everything. So yeah, there we go. Got a nice glow underneath. Kinda good. Hopefully it's getting to the clay right. And isn't, like, you know, thermally shocking it and making it explode. But yeah, it's looking alright. Now that the flames have calmed down a bit, I've covered it up so it can just cool down nice and slowly. Added a bit more wood every now and then, but yeah, it's burning for like 2 hours, so now it's just gotta cool down nice and slow. Now we just got some glowing embers in there. Gonna take a bit to cool down, but yeah, I'm gonna wait until it's completely cool to the touch and then go from there. A bit later, got the steel off, and it's looking like might have not cracked. Also burnt all the aluminum, which is kind of cool. I'm gonna try and get these out of here without breaking them. I think they might have all survived. Looking pretty good. All the aluminum foil and shit is gonna come off. I'm gonna do that inside though. I found out that I honestly kind of made some tiny little flecks of charcoal, so I'm just collecting it because might as well not waste it. It's kind of cool. Got a little bucket full. It's nasty. I'm gonna have to sift it, but it'll be used for the glazing. Somehow pulled off a perfect firing. None of them are cracked. I mean, there's a bit of like marring, but you know, it's a fucking fire. So that's kind of cool. There's a bunch of like aluminum oxide all over the place. I'm gonna have to clean that off, but to prepare for the glazing, I first had to clean off the pieces, getting all the carbon, debris, and metal oxides that had caked onto it. This is just so the glaze sticks better to the surface. Then came the chore of regrinding the powder glaze that I bought from someone in like Bulgaria, I think? I'm pretty sure Customs and Border Patrol opened this thing because it was all sorts of clumped up and nasty when I got it. Could also just be the chemicals, I'm not entirely sure. Or minerals, whatever the fuck. And I mean, like, I get it, it's a bag of white powder, but still. So I slowly ground down portions and sieved the powder into a container where I could mix some water into it and get like a consistency that I thought was at least kinda right. I will note, I was wearing a mask during this entire process since the powder is largely silica and breathing that shit in can cause silicosis or like the scarring and inflammation of the lungs. I've already got asthma, so I was definitely not taking any chances. I mean, like, it might be a pain to be alive in America at the moment, but I'm not dying to some fucking sand. Now the painting process was odd. I think I was supposed to add something else to the glaze, so the particles would remain suspended in the solution a little better, but I didn't really care since I was still getting pretty good coverage. I just made sure to cover everything but the bottom. I don't want these things to stick to the barrel. So I went ahead and put on a second coat and tried to smooth stuff over. I'm pretty sure I made the glaze way too thick, but whatever. But yeah, it's looking alright. And then yeah, next video I'm gonna start with making a shit ton of charcoal and then seeing if these things fire without just getting destroyed. Yeah, I left the head not glazed just because, I mean, you know, it doesn't need to look shiny. It's fine as it is. Like, it's also not gonna hold anything, so yeah. Cool.